Hi guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the SilverStone Raven RV03. Now this has been on the market for over a year. I've been itching to get my hands on it, and I know many of you on the channel have been wanting to see a review of this, so here we are. The Raven series, if you're not familiar with it, has this rotated motherboard tray, similar to the Fortress series. So we've got the rear I/O ports at the top rather than at the back with your traditional case. The predecessor to this, the RV02, not only had the motherboard tray rotated, but it also had the motherboard tray on this prominent side here. So with the RV03, we've got a bit of normality. The motherboard tray is on the normal side as you would with the normal case, but obviously we have the rotated motherboard tray to make that unique, and the rear I/O ports at the top. So the design with this is obviously a little bit different, and already on the written review which I've done for Vortex.net, the comments there have been that, you know, the design is a little bit almost like a step down from the RV02 with the aluminium front panel and things like that. So, you know, take that as you will. As we go on through the video, we're going to show all these features. We're going to go inside, outside, and we'll give our verdict at the end. Okay, starting at the front then, we've got this plastic fascia, and you can see the Raven logo at the very bottom. And just from the styling, you can see that there's a mixture here between the gamer and also the minimalist sort of approach. So we've got the ruggedness of the gamer, but also a professional, sleek sort of style. Above this, we have 7 5¼ bay covers. You can see here that we can remove these from the front of the case. And behind there, we've got air filters. Now, you're going to wonder why there is air filters behind each of these covers, and this is for the simple reason that behind here we can store our hard disk drives. So if you're going to store your drives there, you're going to need a bit of airflow, and you can actually attach fans to the front and the back of the cages. So we won't show this right now because we're going to go on an external view of all the features, but as we go into the video, I'm going to show you this feature and tell you what it's all about. Now there's 2 versions of this case. There's ones with the grey strips or the gold strips. As you can see, we've got the grey strips, and these run along the edge of the case all the way up to the top and across the top of the chassis. Up at the top of the case, we've got the front panel controls. Now these are split into 2 different sections. The first section here has the power and the reset button, along with a power LED which is going to give a white glow when we're powered up. And then at the top here we've got this cover. Now pull that back, that reveals 2 USB 3 ports and the headphone and microphone jacks. Just behind the front panel controls, on the top of the chassis, we have a fan controller. Now this allows us to control the front and rear fans, and we can control those in low or medium setting. You can see there's a switch for either, and that gives you the access there for 700 RPM or 1200 RPM. At the top of the case, we have another plastic fascia, and as you can see here, we've got the ventilation holes to allow the heat to dissipate up and out through the case. We can remove this cover, we just need to pull it up. With that removed, we've got access there to the rear I/O ports and also the PCI Express. We've got a handle here at the back, and to be honest with you, it's a little bit disappointing that there isn't one at the front, so that we could, you know, transport it if we're at a LAN party, for example. The PCI expansion slot covers, we've got 7 there. Those have got the ventilation holes to allow the heat to rise up, and also we've got the ventilation over here and also behind the motherboard tray. The idea with that is we can store hard disk drives behind the motherboard tray. That's quite a big feature, and we'll go into that as we go into the video. We've got a 120mm exhaust fan which is mounted at the top there, just above the CPU cooler. We've also got rubber grommets if you were to go down the water cooling route. Now the thumb screws on the side panels are actually located on the top here, so to get the side panels off you need to remove that top fascia. Moving to the side panels, here on the prominent side we have a perspex window so we can see inside the case, and then we've got this ventilation hole here just for the power supply unit. The power supply unit sits behind here. On the other side we've got a solid panel, and again we've got the ventilation on the other side of that power supply unit. And to get this side panel off, as I said, you need to remove the thumb screws from the top, and then once those, I've already removed the other one, there are 2 on each side panel, and then you just tilt the side panel forward and then it just comes out, and there we've got access to the rig. And as you can see, things are completely different to the typical ATX case. Things are rotated at a 90-degree angle, so the airflow will pass up and out through the top of the case. We've got fans at the bottom which drive the airflow up. So the first thing that we'll take a look at is the power supply unit. Now this would typically be mounted at the bottom towards the rear of the case, but with the RV03 we have it mounted at the front here, as you can see, and again it has been rotated round so it faces this way, and this is the back of the power supply unit. And you can see here we've got this extension cable which loops around and plugs in, and you're going to wonder where that goes to. And the idea with this is this extension cable goes all the way through, it routes down through the front of the case and it comes up and out through the bottom. And this just allows you to plug your cable at the bottom and hidden away out of sight. As you would expect, the power supply unit also has a filter which is removable. Here we've got the filter and it's got magnets placed along the edge, and we can just fix that to the bottom of the case like so. In terms of cooling, at the very bottom of RV03 we have two 180mm fans, and these are intakes. So the idea with this is obviously heat rises, so as that heat rises these fans will enhance the cooling by driving that airflow up and out through the very top of the case. And you can see here these 180s are actually quite significantly big. One of them is actually set back further into the motherboard tray, and the reason for this is behind that motherboard tray there's a significant gap to allow you to mount hard disk drives, SSDs. So this one that is set further back will just give it, you know, a little bit more cooling ability for those drives, just to help lift the heat off those. And again, in similar fashion to the power supply unit, we've got a removable filter. So these 180mm fans here are intakes, so there's a tendency there for the build-up of dust on the underside of the case. So this filter, you can remove it, clean it, and of course it's got the magnets again, so that we can easily attach it to the case and easily remove it to clean it. And at the very top we have a 120mm fan, which would typically be a rear exhaust. Instead, obviously it's a top exhaust, and that just sits above the CPU cooler. Next up we have 7 5¼ bay slots, and each of these slots has the toolless design mechanism for getting the devices in and out of the case really easy. The significant thing though about these cages here, there's two of them, is the fact that you can mount a 120mm fan on the inside, the near side, and on the other side, which is just behind the bay covers. And the idea with this is you're not able to only mount your optical drive, but you can also drop in hard drives inside here. And obviously a hard drive generates more heat, so you do need the airflow inside there. So it's nice to see that SilverStone have thought about this and they've included this. And also on the drive bay covers we've of course got the fan filters, because that will act as an intake, so you can take those out and clean them. Now I've hinted at it many times throughout the video, and many of you will be intrigued as to what you can get behind the motherboard tray. And actually between the back of the tray and the side panel there is 5 centimeters of clearance, which is astronomical compared to any other case that you've seen on the market. This is a massive, generous amount. Not only can you store your cables and make a really good job of it, but you can also drop in your drives. Here you can see I've got a 2.5" and a 3.5" drive, and SilverStone have put in various different placements, so you can go with different combinations. You know, I've gone with putting the drives in the particular spots. You can go for a different combination. And here you can see I've got a 2.5" drive. All you do is drop in your screws, attach it to that placement there, and that's it. You know, it's simple as that. I've got a 3.5" drive as well, which you have to remove the bracket, which takes a few screws to remove. You drop in your drive and then you attach both the drive and the bracket to the side of the case. And obviously, yeah, as I say, you can drop in various different spots. You don't have to go with this combination, but there you can see that you can mount these behind the motherboard tray. Onto clearance, we've got enough space there for the bigger flagships like your Noctua NH-D14, Filmorite Silver Arrow, Alpenphone K2. Here we've got installed the Noctua NH-U12P, which is 158mm in height, and those other ones which I've just mentioned are 160mm in height. So there you can see we've got the, although we haven't got lots of space, we've got enough space for those bigger CPU coolers. Moving to the graphics card clearance, here we've got the NVIDIA GTX 480. This is 11 inches in length, and you can see there, before it touches that bottom fan, we've got approximately 2.5 inches of clearance. So any card currently on the market, I think there's the biggest ones around 12 inches, maybe a little bit bigger. So you'll be able to fit any of those in, anything high end. And also if you go to SLI, Crossfire, you'll be fine with dual card configurations. And then lastly, onto the water cooling support, because obviously some guys like to swap out the air cooling for water cooling. So these two 180mm fans at the very bottom, we can take these out and we can replace them with a radiator. Now this is a G charger, a Phobia G charger, which is oversized. So this is not your typical radiator. This is a bit thicker. It's 6 centimeters. This will not fit inside. So if you've got a standard type, which is under, it's usually around half the size of that, the thickness, then you'll be fine. It will fit inside. Okay, so finally we're going to take a look at how loud the case fans are inside our V03. Now this is a section which I previously removed from the reviews, since it's got a little bit of criticism to say, it perhaps isn't the most accurate way of monitoring noise levels. But I've since had some messages to say, really it should be in the reviews, and it's actually quite a useful thing to have. So contrary to what some people have said, and regardless of how accurate it is, we're going to have this in the reviews from now on. So we're just going to see how loud these case fans are on the low setting and also the high setting. So I'll just power them up. Okay, the fans are currently on the low setting. I'm just going to remove my microphone. I've got it as close as I can to the fans. Just to see how loud they are. And then we're going to switch it to being high. So these are on the high setting. So that hopefully is giving you a little bit of an idea for how loud the case fans are inside our V03. Obviously when we've changed the setting to high, it is noticeable. We've gone from 700 RPM all the way up to 1200 RPM. Okay guys, well that pretty much concludes our video today. We've been taking a look at the Raven RV03 from SilverStone. Very similar in design concept compared to the Fortress FT03 which we recently reviewed. But obviously that was micro ATX. This is ATX full-sized, so I've been really itching to get my hands on something like this, and I've heard really good things about it, and to be honest with you, I've not been disappointed. It really is a good case. Inside we're able to house long graphics cards, big CPU coolers, water cooling at the bottom, not a problem. Over on the other side, behind that motherboard tray, we have 5 centimeters of clearance, which is more than generous, so we're able to keep the front really nice and tidy. Cable management is a doddle, and obviously behind there we can drop in our hard drives, which is a really unique feature, and I really like the idea of that. It really is good. In terms of pricing, over in the United States you're looking at $159 US. I've checked the price recently on newegg.com, and in the United Kingdom you're looking at about £100, so it's actually not too bad value for money considering all the features that you get. With the cooling, the fans, the fan controller, USB 3, and obviously it's quite a unique case. Quite hard to put a price on something that's so unique. So if you want to know what the thermal performance is on this case, how well these fans react when they're in this sort of system, how effective it is inside the system, then jump over to vortex.net. I'll drop the link in the description. And there is a bit more detail in that review. Some of the things I can't actually cover in the video. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you haven't already, subscribe. And if you could like, and feel free to comment, drop any comments in the box below, and any questions as well. And I'll see you soon.